Hello and welcome to another episode of Do You Want More, a UFC stat show right here on the Monkmatics channel. I am your host Monk, aka the Monkmatician, and in this episode we are going to be breaking down all the relevant statistics for the early prelims of UFC 268. We got 5 fights on these early prelims, so without further ado, let's get right into it. First fight of the night, going to be Osbourne going against CJ Vergara. I have no stats on CJ Vergara. Usually I will log Dana White Contender Series fights, but his fight was so short and crazy, it just blew all the statistics out. They were heavily weighted in the wrong type of ways, so I just got away with that fight. So we have no stats for CJ Vergara, so we'll just cover Osbourne here. This is going to be a flyweight fight. 5'7" for Osbourne, 73-inch reach southpaw fighter. Vergara is orthodox. Osbourne, 29 years old, 9-4 professionally, 1-2 in the UFC. Let's see, only one fight in his career has ended by decision win. He has one decision loss as well. 38% of his professional wins or professional fights have come by way of knockout. 4 wins, 1 loss, and then 46% of his pro fights have ended by way of submissions. Another 4 wins, 2 losses. Vergara on the other side, he has 3 decision wins, 1 loss, 6 KO wins, 1 submission loss. Let's see here. Total or average fight time for Osbourne, 2.5 minutes. Third shortest in the flyweight division. Ass whoop index minus 18.81. Very, very low there. Power index highest in the division, 3.13. That is the biggest number in the flyweight division. Sorry, I'm still a little tired, still waking up. I can't speak properly. So yeah, in his one fight, he knocked a guy out extremely quickly. We'll have to see who that was. And in his other 2 fights, he has been knocked down and finished extremely quickly. So first round finishes and finished losses for Osbourne. He opened minus 150, currently minus 172. This fight is minus 170, doesn't go to decision. I capped this 69.5% for Osbourne, 30.5% for Vergara, but that's because I have no stats on Vergara. That said, I'm still on the Osbourne side. He is 1-1 as a favorite. Yeah, finish wins in the UFC 1, finish losses in the UFC 1 by KO and 1 by submission. All 3 losses and wins. So, God, I cannot speak. I apologize. All 3 fights, 1 win and 2 losses, finishing in the first round. Let's move on to basic striking data. Looking pretty good for Osbourne. Some top 10 numbers here offensively. 4 strikes landed a minute at a 55% accuracy. Gets hit with only 3.5 at a 36% defense, so that defense is not where you want. But he has a positive striking differential, half a strike per minute, 14th best in the flyweight division. Negative striking efficiency, spends 73% of his total fight time fighting at distance. So he is an all or nothing striker kind of guy. 1 knockdown for, 1 knockdown against. That gives him a knockdown for and against per 15 of 1.88. That is second highest and then 4th lowest respectively in the flyweight division. No offensive takedown data for Osbourne. He has stuffed 1 of 2 takedowns for a 50% defense. 1.88 takedowns landed against per 15. Pretty irrelevant for such a small sample size. Control time data. In his very few minutes in the UFC, only controlled 1.25% of that control time. He's been controlled 25%. Only spent 26% of his total fight time fighting inside the distance. Only controlled 4.76% of that fight time. So not showing too much fight IQ as far as grappling goes. We'll see if he's made any improvements there, or if he'll even have to going against CJ Vergara. I'm sure this will be a stand-up battle for about as long as it lasts, which won't be very long, in my opinion. No subs, no reversal data, head strike or advanced significant striking data. Top 10 offensive head strike numbers for Osbourne. Top 5 ground striking numbers for Osbourne, but like we said, such a low sample size, you kind of take these numbers with a grain of salt. Let's move on to striking efficiency, where Osbourne is negative in 3 categories. Positive in body striking and inside the distance. Head striking differential 0.5 over his opponents. Body strikes, 0.38. and he's getting outstruck to the legs per minute. 77.5% of all significant strikes thrown from Osbourne have been targeted to the head, 13, almost 14% to the body, and 8.5 to the legs. So he does a good job of mixing up his strikes to every location, as you would expect from, you know, guys with decent striking numbers. They know how to strike. Last 5, we can skip that. Nobody's got 5 fights here. Last 5 strength of schedule. We can look at Vergara over here. I do track the last 5 fights to determine my strength of schedule numbers here. I kind of do them like the BCS does college football. So let's see, Osbourne winning this category all the way across the board, except for the fact that Vergara has no losses in his last 5. He is 5-0, but we are under 60 as far as strength of schedule goes. That is a low, those are low numbers, guys. You want to be 70 to 75 minimum. You have 70 minimum. 75 is pretty decent. Anything above that is good. Anything below that is rubbish. And we're at sub 60 here. Osbourne, you know, 8 points higher in a couple of these categories, but still not touching 70. So we don't have great strength of schedules in this opening bout. Osbourne, here's how his last 3 in the UFC breakdown. Losses to Manel Kape, Brian Kelleher, and a very quick knockout win over Jerome Rivera. But like I said, all first round finishes and finish losses for Osbourne so far in the UFC. He's either dealing it or he's getting dealt. That's about his only 2 options. If you graphical, or just a bit of graphical analysis, I should say, Ode Osbourne strikes per minute. He is outlanding his opponents, half a strike per minute in his last 5, or his last 3, I should say, and he is trending up. You like to see that. No takedown data and very little control time data. Opponents way up there in control time. That is mostly and only actually due to Brian Kelleher controlling almost 70% of his fight with Osbourne. And we'll finish it with some visual statistical recap. No stats for Vergara. And then the strength of schedule is all Osbourne, as we talked about. Vergara never been knocked out, has been submitted. And then aggregate win-loss and finish rates. I kind of use these to tell if a fight is going to go the distance or not, whether I should bet it or start to think about betting it. Usually, you know, I do have all these graphs here, but usually I will add up the wins and losses in the UFC, or possibly the career, and kind of determine, you know, if that number is over 100%, like 77 plus 66, clearly over 100%, I will start to look into betting that inside the distance. If it's below 100%, I'll pass. This one, I mean, for God's sakes, Ode Osbourne, like we said, all first round finishes. CJ Vergara, if you go to his Tapology, tons of finishes. I think his last 6 or 7 have ended without needing a decision. So yeah, I'm definitely thinking this one gets finished inside the distance, and I'm going to pick Ode Osbourne. Sorry, I got to think about how to spell this. All right, next fight, Melsik Baghdasaryan. Nailed that spelling, by the way. Give me my fucking points on that one. Going against Bruno Souza, another fighter with no UFC fights, so we will skip most of the stats on the right side of the screen. Baghdasaryan against Souza. This is a flyweight fight. 5'9" Baghdasaryan, 70-inch reach, southpaw. Another southpaw versus orthodox fight. Baghdasaryan, 29 years old, 6-1 professionally, 1-0 in the UFC. Let me see here. 14% of his total pro fights have gone the distance. 1. He has 5 wins by knockout and 1 submission loss for his only loss in his professional career. Average fight time in there is, he only has 1 fight, so we'll skip that. 25.61 ass whoop index. Wow. That is good for first in the flyweight division. He only has 1 fight, so that is skewed. Power index 2.27. Third highest in the flyweight division, or featherweight division, and a perfect 0 chindex. That's what you want to see there. Baghdasaryan opened -185, currently -304. Bruno Souza opened +160, currently +241. I'm capping this 77% Baghdasaryan. I have no stats for Souza, so that does tip it towards Baghdasaryan, but I would have been going there anyways. He looked pretty impressive in his first fight. Forget who was against. Colin England, maybe? Don't hold me to that. Find out. Baghdasaryan, fantastic offensive striking numbers. in the featherweight division. 6.44 strikes landed a minute in his first fight, 58% accurate. Got to hit with only 3.66 a minute at a 51% defense. A huge 2.78 significant strike per minute differential. Excuse me. That is third highest in the division. I mean, almost 10% striking efficiency. 78% of his total fight time fighting at distance. One knockdown in that fight for the top KD per 15 in the division at 2.2. No takedown data. 0% 0% takedown defense. 1 for 1. Did not stuff that takedown. Let's see here. Even though he got taken down, he controlled 17% of that fight, and he only got controlled for 4.3%. Spends 21.7% of his total fight time fighting at distance, but he does control 79, almost 80% of that fight time. Like we said, that's only one fight, small sample size, but it could be the opposite, so we're looking pretty good there. 18-second get-up time. Like I said, these numbers will start to even out after this fight, unless he just smashes Bruno Souza. Yeah, we're kind of gonna fly past this one pretty quickly. Small sample size. That said, head strikes landed per minute, over 4, 50, almost 54% accuracy. Body strikes landed per minute in that fight, 1.76 through over 2 a minute. And that's just significant strikes. That's not total strikes. So I forgot. If I say strikes, I mean significant strikes in this video. Clinch striking, fantastic. Efficiencies. He's only negative in leg striking. Everywhere else, he's pretty fantastic. That is Melsick we're talking about. Over 2 head strike differential per minute. Almost 2 distance strikes per minute. Half a body strike, half a clinch strike. I mean, positive differentials everywhere in that fight. 69% of all significant strikes thrown from Baghdasaryan were aimed or targeted to the head. 20% to the body and almost 11% to the legs. That is just what you want to see. We can skip the last 5. Strength of schedule. That is the big problem here for Baghdasaryan. This is terrible. One of the worst last 5 strength of schedules on the entire card. I mean, 57. Hines 57 is trash, and a strength of schedule of 57 is also trash. Don't fucking at me, Hines. Souza, you can see his strength of schedule. 10 points better across the board. It's still low. It's still under 70. But 10 points better than Baghdasaryan. So we'll see if that's just a function of wherever Baghdasaryan was fighting last. He's probably fighting scrubs for the most part. But the kid does look like he has a game of some kind. And a kid. He's 29 years old. He's not a fucking kid. Graph we can skip. Let's see. Souza never been finished in his career. Baghdasaryan never been knocked out. Then, like we said, the strength of schedule, a clear-cut advantage for Bruno. And then last 5, aggregate win-loss and finish rates, 50% and 50% wins and losses. This one probably goes the distance, I'm thinking. I mean, actually, what are the odds here? What am I just guessing? Let's see. Fight goes to decision, -130. Fight doesn't go, -110. You're going to have to figure it out your goddamn self. Dustin Jacoby going against John Allan. Both these guys have fights, so we can kind of take a look at both sides of the spreadsheet for the first time today. It's going to be a light heavyweight fight. Dustin Jacoby, 6'3", 76-inch reach, orthodox fighter, 33 years old. He's 15-5-1 professionally, 3-2-1 in the UFC, 4 wins, 2 losses by decision, 10 wins by knockout, 1 knockout loss. That's 52% of his total pro fights. 19% of his pro fights have ended by way of sub, 2 wins, 2 losses. Average fight time in the UFC, 10.31 minutes, -5.98 ass whoop index, pretty low. Power index of 0.81, just above average for the division, and a chindex of 0.85. That is 30th out of 41 in the division. Way too high. You want that to be at 0. Jacoby opened -250, currently -283. This fight is a -175, does not go to decision. I'm capping this 60.5% for Jacoby, 39.5% for Allan. Let's see here. Jacoby is currently the favorite. In fact, he's a big favorite, over 65% implied odds, according to Vegas. But record as a favorite, 3-1. Record as a big favorite, 2-0. And then John Allan, record as a big underdog, never been lined under 35%. So we'll look at record as an underdog, 0-1. He is actually 0-2. I don't remember if he lost that first fight. We'll have to look. But it did get overturned due to John Allan failing a doping or having a doping violation. And I don't mean doping, I mean like doping. Not good. Dustin Jacoby, 2 knockouts in the UFC, 2 knockout wins, both in the first round. He has been finished in the third. We totally skipped John Allan. We did. Let's go over there. John Allan, 6'1", 75-inch reach, orthodox fighter, 28 years old, 13-6 professionally, 0-1 in the UFC, and 1 no contest. 16% of all professional fights he's had have gone the distance, 1 win, 2 losses, 9 wins by knockout, 3 knockout losses, and 4 submission losses. This guy's been finished 7 times in his career out of 20 fights. Average fight time in the UFC, 15 minutes, negative 4.31 ass whoop index, a 0 power index, and a perfectly 0 chin index as well. He opened plus 210, currently plus 230. ... Now we're all caught up. Basic striking data. Jacoby, lands 4 strikes a minute at 42.6%. Gets hit with 3.8 strikes a minute, 59.6% defense. Very good defense there. 0.21 strikes landed per minute differential. That is 22nd out of 41 fighters. 2.2% efficiency. He spends 75.25%, of his total fight time fighting at distance. 2 knockdowns in the UFC, giving him a 0.49 knockdown per 15 rate, 19th highest in the light heavyweight division. Same with knockdowns against, though. Very, very high. Don't want to see that. He has won all fights in which he scored a knockdown, and he has won all fights in which he's been knocked down as well. Very interesting stat right there. John Allan on the other side, getting smashed in every single category. 2.8 strikes landed per minute at a 39% accuracy, gets hit with over 4 strikes a minute at a 55% defense, negative 1.23 strikes landed per minute differential, 37th out of 41st, very low. Negative striking efficiency, spends 53.39% of his total fight time fighting at distance. No knockdowns for or against. Let's go on to basic takedown data, where John Allan flips the script here. Jacoby lands only 0.24 takedowns per 15 minutes at a 25% accuracy, just 1 in the UFC, 1 takedown landed, 6 fights. Gets hit with 3.4 against, 3.4 takedowns against per 15 at a 48% defense, not very good at all. Negative 3.15 differential per 15 minutes. He's negative 26.8% efficient. My goodness, terrible takedown numbers from this is what terrible takedown numbers look like in the UFC right here. John Allan, basic takedown data, 2.5 landed per 15 minutes, 71% accurate. It's hit with only 1.5 per 15 minutes, 40% defense, i.e. 11% positive efficiency, so not too bad. Not great numbers, low sample size, not as bad as Dustin Jacoby. Control time data. Jacoby getting out-controlled 5-1 here. 4.694, 20% against. Spends 24.75% of his total fight time fighting inside the distance. Controls only 18.95% of that fight time. That said, he has a decently quick get-up time for the division, 53 seconds, and an okay control time rate of 12.07. That is 19th highest out of 41 fighters. So he is generally, pretty active when he is in a control position. He also has a really good hold down time, top 10, 174 seconds there. John Allan gets out-controlled as well, 5-2 basically. 13.6% for, 33% against, spends 46% of his total fight time fighting inside the distance, controls only 29% of that fight time. So a couple of subpar control time artists for the most part here. 3 submission attempts for Allan. All of them have been unsuccessful. No reversals. What am I looking for in advanced significant striking data? What's jumping out at me? Every offensive category, with the exception of clinch and ground strikes, goes to Dustin Jacoby for the most part, and he has decent numbers. Numbers from John Allan are better in some categories, but towards the middle or bottom end of the division. Advanced significant striking efficiency and differentials. Jacoby, negative efficiency in leg striking and inside the distance. John Allan is positive in leg striking and inside the distance, negative everywhere else. As far as differentials go, pretty even for Jacoby, except from distance. He's 2/3 of a strike per minute better than his opponents. Allan from distance, minus 1.83 strikes per minute. That is a huge negative differential there. 3/4 of a body strike per minute, 1/4 of a clinch strike, 1/3 of a ground strike. Actually, those last two are positive. Sorry about that. And then pretty even as far as mixing up strikes. Both of them, 79% of all strikes thrown have gone to the head. For Jacoby, 9.5 to the body, 11.5 to the legs. Allan, 12.5 to the body, 8% to the legs. Jacoby, interesting though, almost 95% of all significant strikes thrown from Jacoby have come at distance. Last 5 we can look at it for Jacoby. -4 ass whoop index, so he improved that a bit. Power index is 0.87, but that chin dex not good, 0.96. He has most of the striking numbers, and he loses most of the ground time categories, as we would come to know from looking at the stats. Categorical trends last 5, Jacoby trending up in 4 of 8 categories. In fact, his striking accuracy has gone up 2.5% over his last 5 compared to his career. And his takedown defense up 6%. Let's see, we'll move on to strength of schedule. Jacoby 4-0-1 in his last 5. Allan 3-2, and it's not even close. Jacoby smashes this category. Allan with another terrible strength of schedule, barely at 60 in a couple of these categories. Strength of defeat is okay, but that's about it. Jacoby, no defeats in his past 5, and over 70 as far as the rest of the numbers. Clearly dominating strength of schedule. Allan, yeah, he no contest Mike Rodriguez. That got overturned. And then lost to Roman Dolidze in a super exciting fight. Jacoby wins over Stewart, Grishin, and Ledet. Lost to Chris Camozzi, and a draw with Mr. Draw, Ian Kutalaba. That is how those fights break down there. That Darren Stewart win, KO in the first round. Good look right there. Very good look. Couple of graphs here. Strikes, Jacoby is above his opponents and trending way up, looking great. No takedowns to speak of. Opponents way up here. And then control time definitely needs work, more than 2-1 against. Allan, opponents outstriking him and trending way, way up, even steeper than Allan himself. Takedown game, doubling up his opponents, while almost one takedown per 15 more than his opponents. Both him and them trending up. And then control time, like we said, needs work. Opponents trending way up. That has a lot to do with Roman Dolidze, though. But hey, if you get out controlled, you get out controlled. Visual statistical recap. 2 opposite graphs here from Allan and Jacoby. Much more real estate as far as the finishing metrics here. Allan being finished at a higher percentage over his professional career. And then, like we discussed, strength of schedule in their last 5, respectively. It's Jacoby, and it's not even close. Aggregate win-loss and finish rates. I mean, these are some high numbers here. We got 100% in the UFC. And huge, 165% in their professional career. I personally am picking Dustin Jacoby to win by first round knockout over Allan. If we go back down, sorry for all the scrolling. Dustin Jacoby is due for another knockout. He only has, let's see, he's got 10 in his career, right? 10 out of 21 fights. He only has 2 out of 4. Or 2 out of 5 in his last 5 fights. So he's due for a knockout. And Allan, who's been knocked out 3 times in his career, is due to get chin checked. So I'm going Dustin Jacoby, first round knockout here. Let's get it. Next fight of the, I almost said fight of the night. Hey, it could be. Villante going against Chris Barnett. Eesh. Heavyweight fight. Villante, 6'3", 76-inch reach, orthodox fighter, 36 years old, 17-3 professionally, 7-10 in the UFC. 10 wins by knockout, 5 losses by knockout, 2 sub wins, 1 sub loss. Average fight time over 11 minutes, minus 3.28 ass whoop index, very low for the division, 0.45 power index, and a 0.53 chin dex. And Villante opened at minus 150, currently minus 113. Fight doesn't go is lined at minus 195. I'm capping this big time for Villante, 65.5 to 35.5. As a favorite, he is 6-4, which that is what he is currently lined as. Chris Barnett, 5'9", 74-inch reach, orthodox fighter, 35 years old, 21-7 professionally, 0-1 in the UFC. 68% of his total fights have come by way of knockout. 16 wins, 3 losses, no submission wins, 1 sub loss. -30 ass whoop index from Chris after 1 fight. No power and no chin, so that's good. Open plus 130, currently -110. And his record as a dog is 0-1. Few finishes for Villante, 4 finish wins in the UFC. Been knocked out 3 times and subbed once. A couple of those in the first round. Striking data. I have him pretty low as far as striking in the division. This number here, I should probably, I'll talk about it in the next video. You'll just have to tune in. Villante lands 4.61 strikes per minute at a 43% accuracy, gets hit with 5.86 strikes a minute at a 53% defense, -1.25 strikes landed per minute, differential, 38th highest out of 44. 6th lowest, 7th lowest. -3% efficient, has spent 87% of his total fight time fighting at distance. 4 knockdowns in the UFC, 0.31 knockdown per 15 rate. That is decent. Has been knocked down 6 times, though. Terrible. 0.46 knockdown against per 15. Has won only 75% of all fights in which he scored a knockdown, but he's only lost 80% of all fights in which he has been knocked down. Chris Barnett, on the other side, 4.63 landed per minute, 38% accurate. Got hit with 8.43 strikes a minute in that fight, 40.5% defense, -3.79 strikes landed per minute, differential, 2nd lowest in the division, -20% efficient, 70% of his total fight time was spent at distance. We'll move on to takedowns. I mean, Chris Barnett has nothing to speak of, 0 accuracy, 0 defense. Villante, 0.39 landed per 15 minutes at a 22.7% accuracy, very low. Gets hit with only 0.46 per 15 minutes at an 85% defense. So he actually does have a decent takedown defense here, stuffing 35 out of 41 shots. 8% efficient. All right, so some okay numbers there from Villante. Control time. Villante controlling only 6% of the fight time, being controlled for 7% of the fight time. Spends only 13% of that fight time fighting inside the distance, but he does control 45.5% of that time. So pretty decent number there. Barnett, I mean, he got smashed in control time, 0.5% to 29%. Spent 29% of his total fight time fighting inside the distance, controlled only 1.5% of that fight time. Very slow, or not very, but decently slow get up time. 2 minutes there. We'll scroll it down. Striking data, very low sample size from Barnett. Over here, we got some, run-of-the-mill to a little bit better than run-of-the-mill offensive numbers for Villante, but his defensive numbers, for the most part, are below average. Striking efficiency and differentials, we are negative everywhere for Villante, except for inside the distance, and Chris Barnett covers that as well. Negative everywhere. Negative striking differentials everywhere, except for legs, 0.84. Leg striking differential per minute from Chris Barnett. You're negative pretty much everywhere for Villante. Wow. Last 5 for Villante. I mean, these look better than they are just because they're going against Barnett. I mean, we're at a negative striking differential, 0 takedown diff, and a positive control time diff, so actually not as bad as I thought. But a negative ass whoop index. Power index is okay, should be higher for a light heavyweight, but that chin index, you never want to see it that high. Categorical trends. Villante trending up in 6 of these 8 categories. In fact, his takedown defense has improved by 14.5% over his last 5 compared to his career. Striking defense has gone up as well. I didn't realize this was still coming on. I apologize. And then strength of schedule. I didn't mean for that to... I'm sorry. So sorry. Strength of schedule. Poor. Piss poor for both of these guys. Villante, under 70 in all these categories. Barnett, I mean, a 50 strength of victory. So the guys he's beat in his last 5, in which he is 4-1, are terrible. 75 strength of defeat, and that's the best number in this whole category for either guy. So that should tell you that those numbers are trash. Villante 1-4 in his past 5, with his only win coming to Ed Herman by way of split decision. Pretty bad. Losses to Collier, Green, Oleksiak, and Alvey. Barnett is one fight in the UFC, lost to Rothwell, round 2 submission. Congrats from Villante, getting outstruck and his opponents trending way up compared to him. No takedowns for or against in his last 5, and that control time he has the advantage in the last 5 and trending up, but it's not much. But he's not giving up hardly any control time, so that's pretty much the most important part of that graph. We'll skip those from Barnett. Basic fight metrics, Villante, we don't have enough information for Barnett here. Barnett getting subbed at a higher rate, and the strength of schedule is poor. Aggregate win-loss and finish rates. In the UFC, we are over 100% here. I think, personally, I'm going to step out on a crazy fucking limb here. I think I picked Gian Villante to win this fight, and I'm picking him to win by submission because I'm a fucking dummy. I just think this is the one guy in the division that they gave Villante that he could potentially finish. Barnett looked terrible against Rothwell, and Rothwell is Rothwell. I mean, I like Rothwell, Wisconsin guy, but he's a little older now, and he's slowing down a little bit. Although in that Barnett fight, he looked fantastic. So, but that said, I'm going to lean Gian Villante here. He's got to get a win, right? He has to. So I'm not like a huge Villante fan or anything. I mean, I like Sarah Jim. I like those guys. But I don't know. I just think it's time for Villante. It's now or not anymore, as far as I'm concerned. Last fight of the early prelims. We'll finish it up. Ian Garry going against Jordan Williams. This one will be quick. I have no stats on Ian Garry. That said, I am picking him to win this fight. He is supposed to be the next big thing. Coming out of, I believe, England. Yeah, I know England, but I think Cage Warriors, I think. Either way, he's touted, in my opinion, better than Paddy Pimblett. So I'm excited to see what this guy can do. I'm picking him to win. Jordan Williams, 6'1", 75-inch reach, southpaw, 31 years old. Ian Garry, 6'3", 23, almost 24 years old. He's 7-0 professionally. Williams 9-5. Williams has been finished twice, 3 times in his career. Garry opened minus 290, currently minus 365. I mean, with no stats, and that my capping numbers, when I have no stats, usually this is like 30%. So, like, really 25%. It's 53% for Ian Garry because the line and all the other information that aren't stats that I put into this number are dominating for Ian Garry. So, clearly it's going to be Garry here for the pick. I mean, Jordan's striking numbers are terrible. 63rd out of 70, 68 out of 70, -2 differential, -28 efficient, no knockdowns for or against. His takedown numbers are terrible, except for the defense, 80%. That is pretty good. You do have to give him credit there. Gets hit with only 1.67 per 15. So he has stuffed 8 out of 10 takedowns there. We'll give him his credit. 13, almost 14% control time. I'm shaking my head like that's good. It's less than half in the division, and it's only good because we just came off of the Gian Villante Chris Barnett fight. So, and he still gets out controlled. Basically, 2-5 there, or 5-2. Controls only 46%, or sorry, 46% of his total fight time has come inside the distance. Controls less than 30% of that fight time. That's what I was looking for. We're negative efficient everywhere except for legs. -13 ass whoop index, terrible. He has a 0 chin dex, so he's never been knocked down, as we said. Here's what I wanted to see. Jordan Williams' strength of schedule compared to Ian Garry. Both guys are pretty bad, but we know Ian Garry, it's his first fight in the UFC. Cage Warriors is a damn good promotion, but it's still, it's a level down, so you're not fighting as good of competition as you would in the UFC. That said, these numbers are pretty high for Cage Warriors. 66, out of 100, pretty good there. Jordan Williams has been fighting 2 fights in the UFC, and he's not even at 60 in a couple of these categories. Strength of victory is good. Strength of defeat is also pretty good, but he's been getting fed to not world beaters by any means, but I think, you know, I won't say that. It's kind of a throw two amateurs into the or two beginning professional fighters into the mix in the UFC and see who comes out, with Imavov and then Mickey Gall. So, and unfortunately for Williams, he was on the losing side as a favorite in both of those fights. Very interesting. Graphs, striking for Williams is very much subpar. Every graph is very poor for Williams. He is trending up, but his opponents are just doing everything better and faster than him. Basic fight metrics, Garry never been finished and has, I'd give him the strength of schedule as well for the most part. The strength of victory and defeat for Williams is pretty good though. And then aggregate win-loss and finish rates. Huge number of finishes for their professional career, and we barely have anything in the UFC because that's only Jordan Williams. Like I said, Ian Garry, they're feeding Jordan Williams to him. First fight in the UFC, he's going to smash. I don't even think that's a question. Back this minus 365 line, there's probably still some value on it. Not actually, but he could look like a minus 500, you know what I'm saying? We'll just have to see. We'll have to see if he's UFC ready. He's only 24 years old, so crazier things have happened. We'll see if Jordan Williams can play spoiler. Anyways, guys, that is going to do it for the 5 fights for the early prelims. Thank you very much for sticking around. Be sure to do your fight tape, pair it with this, and you will take tons of money from your bookies, guys, this weekend. November 6th on Saturday, UFC 268. Super excited. Please be sure to stick around. I have 2 more videos coming today. Obviously, I'm going to roll right into the 4 fights on the prelims and then the 5 fights on the main card with Kamaru, Usman, and Covington headlining that video. You do not want to miss the stats for that one. As a stat nerd, that fight is absolutely fucking bananas. So you have to see this. You have to see the stats for this fight. They're insane. So again, thank you guys for sticking around, checking around. Thanks guys for just fucking around, watching the video. Hit that like, hit that subscribe, and we will see you in the next one. Peace out.